Otto wanted to buy Choco Bee from a vending machine, but the machine got stuck. He grabbed the machine and shook it hard. Choco Bee didn't budge, so he squatted down, reached his hand into the slot, and tried to grab the Choco Bee. His fingertip was so close. Just a little more, but not enough. Otto sighed, accepted his bad luck, and was about to pull his hand out, but things got worse. His arm got stuck too. Otto panicked. The more he struggled, the tighter his arm got trapped. Just then he heard his coworker Regina behind him, but instead of asking for help, Otto tried to play it cool. He had no idea that his pride would cost him his life. Soon Regina finished work and left. Otto let out a sigh of relief. Time passed. More and more people went home. Eventually the building lights turned off. Otto had no choice now. He gathered all his strength and yanked his arm out, risking a broken bone. His arm was free, but the vending machine came crashing down. When firefighters arrived, Otto's chest was crushed. Paramedics checked his vitals. He was suffering from crush syndrome. His body had built up deadly toxins from the pressure. If they lifted the vending machine, the toxins would rush to his heart, killing him in seconds. Otto was filled with regret. Regret that he didn't ask for help. And in the end, he lost his life over a vending machine. Miles had just arrived in his backyard when he suddenly heard a faint cry for help. He followed the sound and walked forward, only to find that the voice was coming from a deep well. Very soon the firefighters arrived at the scene. Miles told them that his younger brother Jack had fallen in. Their parents were even more anxious to assess the situation underground. The captain grabbed a detector and immediately lowered it down. Jack was stuck in the narrow well walls. Bobby comforted him, telling him not to move. They would get him out as soon as possible, but the situation was not optimistic. Jack kept slipping further down. The more he slipped, the tighter he got stuck. He was at risk of positional asphyxia. Time was running out. Buck suggested using an excavator, but Bobby thought it was too risky. If the well walls collapsed, things would get worse. The safest option was to send someone down to rescue Jack, but the pipe was too narrow. An adult simply couldn't fit.
I can do it!
At that moment, Miles volunteered to go down and save Jack. With the situation urgent, the firefighters had no choice but to let him try. Shim gave him detailed instructions on what to do.
Kick your feet and we'll bring you right up.
Got it.
After making all the preparations, they lowered Miles into the well upside down. Miles slowly moved toward Jack. As he descended, he reassured Jack not to be afraid. Everyone above was holding their breath, worried that something else might go wrong. No matter what, they had to pull Miles up within 2 minutes. Thankfully, Miles quickly reached Jack. He pulled out a safety rope and secured it tightly around Jack's body. Then he kicked the pipe to signal them. Buck immediately pulled the rope. After a tense moment of emergency operation, both Miles and Jack were finally pulled out. The crisis was over, and after this experience, their bond as brothers would only grow stronger. Miles didn't even mind reading Jack his favorite story anymore. He remembered he was a big brother, and that it was up to him to look after Jack. The girl found a mysterious bottle in the ocean. It was covered in unknown organisms. She was studying what might be inside. By accident, she broke the bottle. Glass cut her palm. The unknown substance inside the bottle attached to her wound. Not long after, the girl developed a high fever and started vomiting. Her eyes became bloodshot. After learning about the case, Dr. House believed it was smallpox. The bottle was discovered in a 200-year-old Dutch shipwreck. 200 years ago, a ship transporting enslaved Africans sailed across the ocean. Some of the enslaved people were infected with smallpox. The captain decided to throw all infected individuals into the sea. Watching their companions being dragged away one by one, the remaining people were in a state of panic. At that moment, a bomb was thrown into the ship's cabin. The ship sank. Everyone was buried deep under the ocean, and that sealed bottle might have contained the smallpox virus. But could a virus survive for over 200 years? Everyone was skeptical. House immediately called a CDC expert. The expert confirmed that theoretically it was possible. Since the bottle was destroyed, the virus inside couldn't be directly tested. House had no choice but to have his assistant isolate the girl first. They tested her for smallpox antibodies and vaccinated her entire family. Sure enough, they found smallpox-like symptoms on the girl's joints. The assistant immediately contacted the CDC. Meanwhile, House tried to scare the girl, telling her there was a 30% fatality rate. The girl was terrified, but soon the doctors noticed a rash under her arms. House said a rash under the arm means it's not smallpox. The girl's parents were confused. So was it smallpox or not? Just then the CDC team arrived. House said sorry, false alarm. But Dr. Broda argued that the rash could be an allergic reaction, so they still needed a DNA test. Until the results came back, no one was allowed inside the quarantine zone without direct contact with the patient. House's team couldn't analyze the cause of her illness, but House found the ship captain's journal in a museum archive. The problem was no one could read Dutch. That didn't stop House. He casually found a Dutch woman online and asked her to translate it. His assistants were stunned. From the journal, they learned that only the enslaved Africans got sick. The captain and his crew were never infected. That didn't make sense. Smallpox spreads through the air. If even one person had it, the captain and crew couldn't have all remained untouched. Just then the girl's father started showing smallpox symptoms. He had a headache, a nosebleed, and blisters on his body. In a short period, his condition worsened even faster than his daughter's. He had already reached the peak of the illness. Meanwhile, the assistant carefully examined the girl again. There were no blisters on her hands or feet. That was another sign that she didn't have smallpox. But the father did have blisters on his hands and feet. So how did he get infected if the girl didn't have smallpox? Suddenly House had a realization. The girl's father had kidney cancer before. Although he had recovered, his immune system was still weak. When he was vaccinated for smallpox earlier, he might have actually been infected with the vaccinia virus from the vaccine. The symptoms of vaccinia virus resemble smallpox, but it is much weaker and rarely fatal. House believed that if they treated him with interferon, his condition should improve, proving it wasn't smallpox. But Dr. Broda refused. He insisted on waiting for the girl's test results before making any conclusions. Could he stop House? Of course not. Without even wearing protective gear, House stormed into the isolation room and injected the man with interferon. However, it didn't work. The man's condition deteriorated further. In the end, he passed away before they could determine the exact cause of his illness. Since they couldn't confirm whether he had smallpox, the CDC refused to let House leave quarantine. The assistants brainstormed in the office. They contacted the Dutch woman again, asking her to translate more of the captain's journal, hoping to find a clue. And they did. The journal mentioned that to deal with a rat infestation, the captain had kept a cat on board. But later the cat died. Before it died, it shed all its fur. The assistant concluded that the cat must have been infected with a virus carried by the rats. Rats don't carry the smallpox virus. It had to be rickettsial pox, and rickettsial pox was treatable. Now they just needed to check the father's body for scars. If they found any, it would confirm that it wasn't smallpox but rickettsial pox instead. However, Dr. Broda was convinced it was smallpox. He ordered the team to dispose of the body immediately. The assistant had no choice. She signaled House, who was still in the quarantine room, to check the body himself. Before the cleanup team arrived, House found the scar on the corpse. The doctors immediately adjusted the girl's treatment. The hospital lifted the quarantine order. The crisis was finally over, but the girl's father remained their biggest regret. Extracting embryos, placing them into the robotic uterus. In just one day, the embryos grow into an infant. No pain of childbirth, but only speed and accuracy. Robots as mothers begin accompanying the child's growth, whether in studying or in art. No worse than human mothers at all. This is the robots in the Earth base of post-apocalyptic world. Starting to cultivate new humans, the baby gradually grows up, becoming a graceful young girl. As the only human, the mother pays special attention to her. The girl goes to class every day. Occasionally she undergoes assessments. Then one day the base suddenly loses power. The mother, who is charging, also goes into standby mode. Though the girl is scared, she still checks everywhere. She finds a mouse, so she fetches a cup and lures it in. The mother once said there are no living beings left on Earth. So where did the mouse come from? After the power is restored, the girl hurriedly hands the mouse to the mother. Unexpectedly, the mother is only worried it might bring viruses, affecting the girl or other embryos in the base. Before the girl can react, the mother throws it into the incinerator. Facing the mother's dominance, the girl can't help but start doubting what she says. Is there really no other life outside? A few days later, the girl checks the gate as usual, but unexpectedly finds a woman begging for help. After much consideration, the girl twists the switch and lets her in. The woman is obviously seriously injured, but just in case, the girl still makes her wear protective clothing. The moment the gate opens, the mother senses danger and rushes over, worried that the woman will be sent to the incinerator like the mouse. The girl immediately hides the woman, but just halfway there she encounters the mother. The woman immediately pulls out a gun to shoot, but how could she be a match for the robot? She's pressed down by the mother. If the girl hadn't intervened, the woman would have been dead. She is taken to the medical room. The mother wants to treat her wounds, but the woman refuses because her injuries were just caused by a robot.
Contrary to your understandable assumptions, my primary directive is to care for humanity.
No matter how the mother explains, the woman just doesn't trust the mother. Even if it hurts, she refuses the mother's help. The mother can only leave medicine and lock the woman in the medical room. Then she takes the girl away, but the girl is full of questions. It's already the end of the world. How can there still be humans? What on earth are the robots outside?
I told you it was dangerous outside, and it is. If you'd feared the same danger in our home, how could I have raised you? I hope you see that I'm governed by different parameters than her assailants, that I'm a good mother. Have I ever done you harm?
Finally, she was convinced. The girl goes back to see the woman, only to find that she would rather let the wounds get infected than use the medicine left by the mother. It seems she has a great misunderstanding about robots. To save the woman's life, the girl decides to treat her wounds. In the woman's refusal of anesthesia, the operation begins.
The woman got up in the middle of the night and unexpectedly found her sister making out with her boyfriend. When she saw the man discover her, she not only did not leave, but instead posed in a suggestive pose. The man looked at her and stopped what he was doing. It was not until her sister slapped her that she reacted. The woman smiled. The woman was originally an ordinary police officer named Boomy. She had been working for 7 years and had been doing nothing until one day when the criminal team found her. According to the tip-off, a big drug lord named Sasia had a big plan, but the problem was that 3 different people were pretending to be her at the same time. The police believed that the most suspicious person was the man in the picture, and his biggest hobby was going to nightclubs, so the criminal team gave Boomy the task of confirming the man's identity. In order to attract the man's attention, Boomy refused to leave with his men. Upon hearing this, the man immediately became interested. He had come to this place so many times, and he had always taken the initiative to choose the ladies, but he didn't expect that he would be designated by this girl today. The man looked him up and down. The man smiled. With the help of Indian specialties, he never worried about time. Boomy continued to taunt the man, hope he won't let him down. This further aroused the man's desire to conquer. The man took him to the small room. Boomy said he didn't want to smell the stench here. He wanted to take the man to his private apartment. At this time, the man hesitated. The man explained to the younger brother downstairs and then followed the woman out of the nightclub. The team had been secretly prepared. Just wait for the man to enter the room to start the arrest. However, an accident happened at this time. A car stopped beside Boomy, and the man stuffed him into the car without saying a word. As the biggest drug lord in the local area, he would not trust people so easily. He asked Boomy to hand over his mobile phone, then turned it off, which made the team members anxious. Without the mobile phone location, they had no idea where Boomy would be taken, and he had only been in office after 2 days of simple training. At this time, facing the emergency, she didn't know how to deal with it. A few minutes later, the man took her to a small hotel. While the man was not paying attention, Boomy slammed every door on the floor. However, the man told her that the entire floor had been booked and asked her not to waste any more energy. Boomy could only calm herself down first. While the man was taking a shower, she secretly turned on her phone and the team immediately got her location. Next, Boomy had to delay long enough to wait for the team's rescue. Just as she struggled desperately in the man's arms, her mind suddenly recalled every bit of her ex-husband. Okay. No. Dead. Let you see the second thought of this. Boomy's body began to twist in coordination. The man's face was intoxicated, and Boomy's eyes looked at the pistol not far away. Taking advantage of the man's slackness, he crawled to the bedside, took out a high-frequency whistle from his bag and blew it. Then he took the lead and picked up the pistol on the ground and aimed at the man. The police officers who received the signal also pushed the door open and arrested the man on the spot. The man stared at Boomy. He didn't expect that he, a drug lord, would fall into the hands of this rookie police officer. His first undercover mission was a complete success. The boss was very satisfied with Boomy's performance and gave him a verbal praise. After completing this mission, Boomy thought he would return to normal life again, but he often couldn't help but recall the scene with the man in his mind. After interrogation, it was confirmed that the man was Sasia, but he was unwilling to confess any evidence except his name. He proposed a condition to the superior, that he wanted Boomy to interrogate him in person. In order to get any information from him and to get intelligence from him, the superior found Boomy again to assist in the interrogation. But Boomy refused because she was afraid to face the man again. We have another question. It's San order, Lee. 36 is okay. Boomy could only walk into the interrogation room helplessly. The man told him meaningfully that what they started that day, he would end it one day. Then the man began to explain everything. It turned out that he was just a small card. The local drug lords all obeyed the orders of a man named Nayak. The murders and arms smuggling cases that happened not long ago were just part of Nayak's plan. Only by catching Nayak could we know his whole plan. Just when Boomy wanted to leave, the man put his hand on the case file. The man told him that one day they would meet again, and he would give him what he really needed. After the interrogation, Boomy continued to return to his police post, but he didn't expect the director to tell him that he was fired by the Bureau. Boomy didn't understand what he had done wrong. He came to the criminal team and wanted to ask the superior, but the other party didn't give him a chance to speak and left. He wanted to talk to his sister, but his sister only cared about whether he would have money to pay the rent in the future. Seeing this, Boomy could only lie that it was just a joke. She still went out early and came back late every day, pretending to be still at work. On this day, the divorce case that had been delayed for 4 years with her ex-husband was about to go to court. In order to get her ex-husband to sign the agreement voluntarily, Boomy gave up all the rights she deserved. Unexpectedly, the affairs team sent a text message asking him to report to the Bureau immediately. Boomy hurriedly left the court and rushed to the Bureau, but he was greeted by a psychological tester. He handed Boomy a thick stack of questionnaires and asked him to complete it within an hour. Boomy did not dare to delay and began to answer the questions seriously. But when the time was up, the examiner took the test paper away. Boomy called his colleagues to complain that the examiner gave too little time and there was no way to complete it. Suddenly, he found that the restaurant owner was staring at him. Boomy seemed to understand something from his sight. He took the boss to the kitchen and decided to verify his guess. He found confidence from the boss's reaction. The results of the psychological test came out soon. The superior regretfully told him that he did not pass the psychological test, so he could not continue to perform the undercover mission. Bumi explained to the officer that it was because the test time was too short, but the officer did not listen to his explanation and kicked him out of the office. This job was the only source of income for the family, so he had to keep it. He stopped the officer and said that as long as he could continue to work, he would do anything. The officer changed his mind and asked Bumi to get in the car and took him to a tavern. Bumi was confused. Shouldn't he be taken to a tavern at this time? At this time, the officer stuffed a knife into his hand and told Bumi that this was the second test. His task was to pick a person from the tavern and take him away, and then stab him in the face to test his ability as a killer. The man was unprepared for this temptation to come to the door, and Bumi successfully took him to a corner where no one was. The man couldn't wait, so Bumi asked the man to confirm whether there was no one around and took out the knife from his bag while the man turned around. It seems that this test mission failed again. Sure enough, when Bumi dragged his injured body back to the tavern, the officer had left early. The next day, just when Bumi thought he was going to lose his job, the man from last night strangely appeared downstairs. Bumi thought there was something fishy and hurriedly followed him. It turned out that he actually got into the officer's car. At this time, the officer told him the truth. In fact, the strong man was a colleague of the drug enforcement team. In fact, his suspension and test failure notice were planned in advance so that they could find a legitimate reason for Bumi's resignation. Bumi then realized that, in fact, the officer had planned to send him to get close to the real boss behind the scenes, because Sasha once said that Nyack would like a woman like Bumi. Next, Bumi will have special training and learn a deadly fighting skill that can, For his own safety, Bumi studied very seriously. In addition to these physical training, he also has to learn how to show his unique charm. At night, he dressed up as a street girl. Learning skills continued for several nights. Tonight, suddenly a car stopped next to him and asked him the price. Kidna time. Or kidnia. Ian. Okay. Then Bumi was taken to a single-family villa by these little caras, but when Bumi walked into the villa, he found that their big brother was actually Sasya. He didn't understand why the man who should have been in the cell suddenly appeared in front of him. Facing his teasing, he didn't dare to resist, fearing that his identity would be exposed. At this time, Sasya showed the listening device on his chest. It turned out that he had now become an undercover informant for the police, and the police not far away were observing his every move. He told Bumi that he would get him one day, and then he took Bumi down to the first floor, and he asked his younger brother to send the woman back to the street. The younger brother was full of doubts. He told him that this woman was the type that the boss liked. If the boss saw him on the street one day, he would definitely take him back. He didn't want to cause a rift in his relationship with the boss because of this. After returning to the base, Bumi questioned the commander why he wanted Sasha to cooperate with him. The commander comforted him. Sasha's actions were all under the control of the police, so he didn't have to worry. Although Bumi was resentful of the commander's actions, he was helpless. Next, Bumi repeated his fighting training and makeup skills day after day during the day. At night, he still dressed up as a street girl to look for opportunities. That day, the superior told him that all signs showed that the real behind-the-scenes boss, Nyack, was about to arrive, and he had to move to the hotel immediately to prepare. Bumi packed his luggage and said goodbye to his sister and mother. He lied that he was going on a business trip for a while and asked his mother to take good care of herself. When he walked downstairs, Bumi looked back at the task, which was full of dangers. He did not have full confidence in himself. After arriving at the hotel, he recalled the advice given to him by all his colleagues. He could no longer bear the pressure and collapsed to the ground, full of helplessness. At night, Sasha called to inform him that Nyack was about to arrive and asked him to be prepared. Bumi hurriedly began to dress himself up. Halfway through, a homeless man caught his attention, and he couldn't help sharing it with the homeless man on the street. After this catharsis, Bumi adjusted his mentality. Not long after he arrived at the roadside, a small car turned in front of him. The man in the car told him, "There is a big client who needs Bumi to go with him. Is that okay?" Before they had gone far, the man in front motioned Bumi to hand over his phone. Then the man turned off Bumi's phone forcibly, and the police following behind hurriedly reported to the headquarters. Without the phone location, the police lost Bumi's location in a short while. After a series of detours, Bumi was brought to Nyack, and the younger brother searched him from head to toe. But he had been prepared and did not carry any weapons or listening devices. "Okay, Benny." Unexpectedly, Nyack did not embarrass him at all, and did not force him to do anything, just simply chatting with him. After chatting for a whole night, he told Bumi that he did not like to use force. He wanted a girlfriend-style service, and he promised Bumi that he would never hurt him. Bumi was deeply surprised, and did not expect that this gangster boss also had a tender side. Not long after, Bumi received another text message from Nyack asking him to meet at the old place. Bumi immediately informed his superior, but he waited on the street for a whole night, and no one from Nyack showed up. It was not until the early morning that a car stopped in front of him. After getting in the car, Bumi was already familiar with the routine and turned off his phone. But this time, the police were fully prepared. They followed the car all the way to a pier. The police found through telescopes that Boomy was taken to a small boat, which quickly sailed out of the pier. The chief quickly asked his men to notify all patrolmen to wait on the shore, and sent Boomy's photo to each police officer. But he never expected that the woman who got off the boat was not Boomy. It turned out that Boomy had been swapped when they got on the boat. Then, Boomy was brought to Nyack again, but this time Nyack became suspicious of him because all the numbers in his address book could not be dialed. Boomy argued that the numbers were all customers' numbers, and it was normal to pull him out after consumption. Boomy was locked in the room with a big iron chain, and Nyack did not intend to let him go before finding out his true identity. Next, Boomy was trapped in this room for food and drink, and he didn't know what fate he would face tomorrow. Nyack would talk to him every day, but he had no intention of letting him leave, and his big plan was taking shape in his mind. He was like a tireless computer, calculating all the details in the room. This went on for a few days, and Boomy was finally uncuffed that day. Auntie carefully helped him clean the dirt off his body. Boomy thought Nyack was finally going to attack him, but he didn't expect that it was Saya who came in. Boomy asked him if he was afraid. Nyack found out that he was a police witness, and he would not come back all day, and he would take revenge tonight. At this time, Boomy's eyes stopped at the window.